What's up, guys? This is the host of No Holding Back, Chris Yellow. As you guys know, with technology improving at such a fast rate, it is really enhancing every aspect of our human lives. So it's making our lives so much more easier, but the problem is that it's making us way too dependent on technology, making us so much more lazier. So that begs the question, can technology lead to artificial intelligence to take over the human race? And today we have Giovanni back on the podcast to determine whether or not if this is possible. And we'll be breaking down movies as well that could possibly determine how our future may look like. So thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
It's my pleasure, Chris. Thank you for having me, especially for this topic. It's a good one I love to talk about.
How much has artificial intelligence improved over the last couple of decades?
It has improved greatly, Chris. Let me tell you. From being a little specks in our lives, a little technology here and there, it has become almost integrated in every aspect of our life. Even the workforce and at the home, in the car, technology's everywhere now.
Should we be scared of a potential takeover by artificial intelligence?
The question is, what should we do not to be scared? It's something that, no, not really, and yes, it's a between question because it could help us for the better in the future, and if it gets too smart, we should say, or too intelligent, then yes, we should be scared. We've got some movies out there that kind of determine that, really.
We have to learn to kind of separate ourselves from, technology, because we're becoming more and more dependent as technology improves over the years.
100%.
We're becoming more lazy as we work on, enhancing artificial intelligence. Maybe it's gonna cause them to have a mind of its own and, overtake us. And if we're not careful and we let this happen, it can lead to so many problems. And what kind of problems can you see occurring?
Well, I could see how it could legitimately take over the world. That's one aspect of it. Another one, it could be that we could end up jobless. Already there are some jobs that are taken over by robots. So, it could lead to many things, many outcomes.
So yeah, for example, like if you look at factories back then, you had people in factories making
workers,
things. Now less and less you see workers working at factories, and you see robotics taking over people's jobs.
All the way.
And a lot of those people should be scared. People that are accustomed to working in factories with their hands. With artificial intelligence improving, it takes away from people working regular jobs, and they take a long time to get stuff done, but artificial intelligence and robotics are 10 times more quicker and get the job done sometimes even better than a regular person would.
For robotics in the workforce, it's like cars. A gas car is gonna cost you so little at the beginning, but it's gonna cost you a lot on gas later on in any maintenance. For, let's say, an electric car, it's gonna cost you a big chunk in the beginning, a big price, and then after, you're barely paying for gas because it's not really gas, it's electricity. Same thing with robotics. With a worker, you have to pay him a weekly wage, an hourly wage, the weekly salary, and and if ever they're injured, then you're gonna be kept behind on production, or if something happens, you have to look for another worker. A robot, it's there. You pay one big chunk, you put it on the force on the work line, and there it goes. It's off to work. And you barely have to pay anything for maintenance because it's simple repairs. It's all wires and cables, just simple machinery.
Some people say that with robotics, working in factories, if there's a technical problem, it affects the whole production process.
Well, that's what it's said to be, but we have overcome that, actually. Now there's certain products where, certain production lines where the product would actually divert into another section, like a plan B section, and it will continue there while the robotic arms will be repaired. So basically, we have a robotic system under a robotic system. That way, if a robot does fail overnight, even because now with robotics we do production overnight, there's always going to be a plan B route also known as the Kanban, which I have learned in my engineering field.
What can you potentially see as a threat to the human race?
I could see it as, like I mentioned before, it could take over jobs, right? It could take over the world. Um, in worst cases, we could actually be enslaved by these robots. But yeah, no, honestly, it's something that only the future could tell.
What can potentially lead to the takeover of artificial intelligence?
Us, it's our greed for advancement in human life and human evolution. Right now I believe there's a big increase in the want of intergalactic travel, and to do that we need robotic development, we need technology. So honestly, the only reason, the only way we could get there, the potential threat, I would say, is us ourselves, where we are advancing so fast in technology and trying to figure out certain ways to make lives easier so quickly that we're going to lose ourselves in our steps and tumble and fall, and that's what's going to happen.
And what are the few ways that artificial intelligence helps us apart from robotics helping us increase the workload at a factory, for example?
Well, it could help, like, of course, of course it could help us, definitely. For an example being the Neuralink by Elon Musk, who's actually looking into it right now. It's basically a chip that you can integrate into your head, and it can help with many stuff. It can help with disabilities such as depression, anxiety, and even Parkinson's, where it could control it. And the anxiety controls your hormone levels. Same thing with depression. So yeah, if we do travel at this speed, at this rate, it's good because there's more and more problems coming about in our humans ourselves that are natural, like hormone levels, like, for example, anxiety, depression, and other disabilities, where it could help us.
But this chip could potentially lead to health issues as well.
Oh, definitely. This is the first ever. It's a new milestone, so of course it's gonna lead to difficulties, most probably. For example, like a vaccine. Once you put in your test subjects, you see the defects and you fix it from there. So it's all, like I said, it's all part of an evolution.
It's obviously going to take so many years to master to prevent all those health risks,
Definitely, definitely.
And Elon Musk is obviously a smart guy. He's not gonna give up easily. If it doesn't work the first
He's
time,
gonna go again.
he's gonna go again.
He's gonna go again.
It might come to the expense of the death of some test
Some test
subjects as
subjects, yeah.
well. So hopefully that does not lead to that case, and hopefully he gets it in one shot. But this is something that he has to be very, very careful when developing.
But it would be great, if this chip does come out. I mean, think about all the kids, even, or the adults suffering from depression or anxiety or any high stress levels. It's gonna calm them and actually bring them back to their normal hormone levels.
But personally speaking, would you actually get that chip integrated
Only if I
into yourself?
only if I really need it. They say it does other cool stuff like stream music to your brain, but honestly, I wouldn't want to screw around too much with my body. So personally, I wouldn't want it, depending on my situation.
And same thing for me too. We know we're not perfect, but we're okay the way we are. We don't need to integrate technology or
Yeah.
anything inside of us to enhance our capabilities. Especially with the risk of health issues. I'm not gonna take the chance
Put your
just
body at
because
risk.
I want to improve myself. I would like to die of natural causes or something, not because of a failed experiment.
Of course, and it goes back to the saying of don't abuse, use, right? It's something as, if you don't need it, then you don't need it. If you want it, then that's different. There's a difference between want and need.
And like you said, with artificial intelligence improving at such a fast rate, what can we potentially do to prevent a takeover?
Like I mentioned before, slow down, take it easy. I know. The human, us scientists and other professionals out there, engineers, wanna get working on technology and get to the bottom line quickly. But to prevent the takeover, I think we have to take it easy, and I guess create some safety measures. While going into this technology.
And to what extent have humans become so dependent on technology that they're starting to become so lazy?
That's a very good question. To a very high extent. Take example the Tesla car. Self-driving. That is artificial intelligence right there. And it's not only, yeah, it is dangerous, of course, but it makes us, even if it wasn't dangerous, it makes us lazy as a human ourselves. What's next? a bed that takes you out of bed on your own, a shower that takes a shower on your own, so you don't have to move. I mean, it's gonna lead to a lot of obesity problems.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people suffer from that already. You have vehicles, like you said, that are self-driven
Self-driven,
now,
yeah,
and sometimes, let's say there's a
autonomous.
malfunction with that, it could lead to a lot of accidents too.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's not something that's gonna work 100%. I mean, if a simple road change because of construction, you have to update that software quickly because then the car's gonna think of something else, and oh my God, drive you off a bridge when it's not even built. So it's something that we have to cope with our own invention. That's technology.
And imagine like someone who has to amputate their legs, for example. As the years go on, and how at the pace of how fast technology has improved, can you potentially see a guy who is missing legs, to get robotic legs and feel the sense of
Of legs.
walking
Hmm.
again?
Of course, and that's honestly on the plus side. So, of course, before I get into that, technology has a big negative side and a big positive side. It's not like it leans more to one side than the other. But in the case of a guy missing legs or even paralysis where he does have his legs but really doesn't because he can't move them, the robotic thing, like technology, just helps it. If a guy, let's say for example, a guy has no legs and you create some robotic leg that could work with it, no problem. Maybe you can make the leg feel too. He could have a new whole sense in his legs again. That's very possible. Even a guy who's paralyzed and does have his legs, the robot doesn't need a chip in it to work. It could even be manual, where you just stick it and attach it to the leg and help the paralyzed person walk again.
Yeah, I mean that situation, that idea came to me due to watching movies like Robocop, where he's
Oh yeah,
half
half
human
human.
and half robot,
Yeah.
and he has, a feeling of his legs again, his arms. So basically, after the accident, losing, control to use most of his bodily
Mhm.
functions.
Yeah.
That's where I would think that's a scenario we could potentially see in the future,
Definitely.
especially how fast, how fast everything is moving now. Technology is really making our lives so much more easier. But like you were saying, we're becoming more dependent, becoming more lazy, can lead
Mhm.
to obesity problems. What can we do to help people that really could benefit off this? Like we said, amputees could benefit off this. Who else could benefit off this?
An example could be people with simple organ failures. For example, I've heard some stories where livers or even bladders have been replaced with a artificial one. Therefore, instead of having transplants, you would just make one, fit it in the body, and there you go. Brand new. But there is some downsides to that where the body doesn't take it as well, and feels as if an enemy in quotations is in you. So the body kind of rejects the artificial part, but sometimes it happens where the body accepts it, and you're brand new as if nothing ever happened.
And my personal take on this is that I think we should start by using artificial intelligence to help the people that need it most. So, like I was saying,
Of course,
amputees,
yeah,
people that need, a battery heart, to
yeah,
continue living.
artificial
Um,
organs.
yeah, artificial organs as well. And even if it, like factories, like we mentioned before, if it could speed up the process of
Production.
production, obviously it's amazing, but it has to get the job done properly.
Oh yeah, of course.
You can't have, robotics and artificial intelligence doing the job of a human, but they're not doing it properly.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about artificial intelligence, it's in the name. It's intelligence. It's really intelligent. Actually, it's been shown to do more precise work than a human worker, and obviously at no affection, no exhaustion. Right? They have no heart beating heart, where they get tired, need to eat. They're just fed on electricity. So yeah, I mean, for us to program it and to put it in such an industry, we have to make sure it's precise. And honestly, they are precise. They are very precise. They make cars, for example, in Tesla factories, it's mostly robotic arms building the cars.
And I have no doubt about that. Nothing against that either, because if we've reached a point where, robotics, artificial intelligence, and technology in general are superior than the work of a human,
Hmm.
and they get the job done properly and better than a human would, then there's no doubt in my mind that that's the route to go.
Of course.
And I just wanted to conclude this by analyzing movies that might depict a realistic future with, artificial intelligence at the helm of the human race.
Of course.
So let's start with WALL-E.
Oh, my favorite one was WALL-E.
Yeah, you have WALL-E where you see a futuristic Earth where there's not a lot of humans inhabiting the Earth. WALL-E, and other abandoned, robots are roaming the Earth.
And cleaning, yeah.
Humans they're like, extinct at that point. Even WALL-E himself, he's kind of extinct as well because he's regarded as a old robot.
Exactly.
And you see all these future robots like Eve, if I'm mistaken, that's what her name is.
Eve, yeah.
Have helped the remaining humans that have left Earth on dealing with Earth. And it's so funny how you look at I think he's the captain of the spaceship, how obese he is because he's so dependent on technology.
And I was just gonna say that right now, how the WALL-E movie is actually just, now that you mentioned, has just covered everything we've spoken. On the Earth, there's global warming, and that's why there's so much heat and garbage because of the plastic wastes, and that's why they created technology to clean it up, which didn't work in the end because the technology was old. Then they made new technology, went to space to live there because the Earth wasn't inhabitable anymore, and they made newer robots. And as you can see, they're in floating chairs. Everything that was done, it was done by robots. I remember one clip. There was a character who was pretty obese, and there was a robot that was made just to help her into the water of the pool. It's gonna come to that point, That's exactly what we're talking about.
And I think that would be the most realistic outcome out of all the movies that I'm gonna mention next, because if we fail to detach ourselves from technology, we will become like that. Maybe not us, but our kids or our kids' kids, like down the line, generations will be affected because of their dependence on technology. So now moving on to the Terminator. The bad side of artificial intelligence, the worst outcome possible.
It's basically the worst outcome possible.
What are the chances of that happening?
Oh, that's honestly the same amount of chances of it being the good side, But I mean, that's to a certain extent where we would program the robots themselves to take over the world. I mean, there's this robot that's called Sonia. It's all over the internet. If you just search up Sonia or the robot, you're gonna find it all around the place, where they have programmed her to learn on her own. So when she sees something, she takes it in. Now, see, that's related to a Terminator because they're basically seeing them around them. They're taking it in and themselves learning as a human, just as if a human would, and then putting that learning, that knowledge to something else. And that's honestly, when you come to that point, and that's also very possible.
And it's not only that, I don't think it's going to be humans versus robots, but I think we're going to come to a point where wars are going to be fought between our robots
and other robots.
Definitely. And we're going to be sitting down on the sidelines, controlling them. Or maybe they're controlling themselves and we've programmed them, to defeat the enemy.
Well, that actually brings me to a robot made from Russians, actually, called the Fedor. It's a humanoid robot. It actually just looks like Robocop itself, and it actually uses tools, drives cars, and shoots guns as a regular human. For example, there's a video, if you just search up Fedor, it's only one video on the internet. It shows a robot shooting two guns at a target 3x6. There's 18 targets. And they're basically lined up in a form of 3x6, right, like a square. And in each gun there are 9 bullets. The robot knew when the bullets were done by calculating the weight of the gun. So it would shoot at each target, and at the end stop shooting because it knew that there was no more bullets in the gun. So, and this was all programmed by humans, right? And also on each shot, it never missed. All straight on.
Now, moving apart from, Terminators and
Death robots, yeah.
how like robots could be fighting our wars. But how about a scenario like Robocop,
Where it helps us?
where we mix technology, artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it, with human
Humans.
life to, help us, get by everyday life. Or maybe in this case, Robocop, the police force.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we said before with the paralyzed men, this is actually very good because it gives an extra big opportunity for military men who were unfortunately have come across a grenade and lost their legs, or been shot in the arm and had the arm amputated.
So like we talked about before, the
Yeah,
amputees,
exactly.
how they could benefit off
Of
this.
course, amputees could benefit off this, especially like I said, the military men. You could give them artificial legs, and if of course those guys, once they get hit, they don't want to stay at home and amputated. They also want to get back in the force and go get back what they lost. So you give these guys another chance to go make themselves feel
Human
happy.
again.
Yeah, to go feel human again. And it's honestly great because instead of them staying at home with no pension, no money get or offered by the government, you could actually give them their life back almost by the technology themselves.
And like you were mentioning before, how amputees could, benefit off, the mix between artificial intelligence and our human bodies. There's a TV show that I know you and your dad love to watch, the
Yes.
$6 million
Yeah,
Man.
$6 million Man. Honestly, I really love that show. It's about a man who actually got all his body parts blown away, and the government issued an experiment to invest a bunch of money on rebuilding him solely by robots, and he becomes a superhuman. He jumps high, he fights well, he fights hard. He's a basically, like I said, a superhuman.
It's like, the most recent example of that is Bucky
From
the Avengers.
Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, he has a robotic arm, but that arm, makes him feel, human again. It's only one limb that he was missing, but he's considered an amputee
Of course.
because he lost it in World War II. And obviously, there's like the whole situation of Russians being behind his mental capacity and what he's able to do. He's used as a weapon. So, like we were saying about the $6 million Man, Robocop, Bucky from the Avengers, Marvel, they're all used as weapons. It's a mixture of, robotics, artificial intelligence, and human bodies.
Here, let me tell you this: if you were so happen, God forbid it, but you were so happen to lose a leg and lose an arm, would you say no if we had the technology to replace the leg and the arm?
Well, obviously not. I
Of
think
course.
anybody would accept that. They would just to feel wholesome again,
Of course.
to feel 100% as a human after the incident of losing a body part
Devastating. It's
that
definitely devastating.
makes them feel handicapped
Yeah.
compared to the rest of the world. I think they would definitely do that. They might be looked at strangely, but if they're happy and they feel like they could carry on with their daily life, I think there's no problem with that. And moving on to the next movie, the last one we have, iRobot.
Yes, iRobot. That's basically, I think iRobot has the most realistic scenario of technology amongst the humans. It just shows the way how the robot was living amongst us, amongst humans, and they're just living as if they're just another species, just another nation, and it wasn't too big, just integrating in our lives, and then slowly they started taking over what they wanted theirs.
Well, it led to one rebelling, being smarter than the others,
Exactly.
killing off,
Just takes one.
other humans, and then influencing the rest of the robots to do the same. And that's what's scary because all it takes is one
Just
bad
one
apple
Bad apple, exactly.
to lead to a horrific, situation such as what occurs in that movie.
And yeah, there's an invention in which relates to the iRobot movie, and it's actually these two robots that are actually square-like, just little square robots called the chatbots. One named Alice and the other one named Bob, and these guys, okay, we'll call it guys, but I don't know what to refer to, but we'll call it guys. These guys overnight have made their own language, and what happened was the engineers and the scientists came back the next morning into the lab to find that these two robots were talking to each other in English, but it was in mixed up words that they could not decipher. It was ridiculous, and that shows how, back to what we were saying about that one rotten apple that changes everything. That was basically them. That was very close to them, but they had said to throw the blueprints into the fire, which that we don't know if they really did or not. But yeah, that's how bad it was that they created their own language on their own.
So they developed their own like language, basically to communicate to one another.
To one another, only them two. No one else understood it. Nothing. I mean, to also relate to the movie, but in a way, not that it takes us over, like the technology that would take us over, but more that how it would help us is actually robot-controlled beetles, which was created at MIT, and it's basically a device that's used on beetles, the big ones, not any small backyard ones, the actual beetles. It actually, you could control the beetles themselves. It's perfectly harmless. It's just a device that goes on the beetle's back, a tiny, very small little device that goes on the back or on the head, and uses waves to direct the beetle in certain directions, and which can be controlled by a human. Now this could be used for many things, to look in simply to look into little crevices where it's important to look, or even at a certain level to spy on another nation or someone else. It could be used in detective work.
I mean, I think we've seen that in so many movies where devices were used in spy movies.
Yeah.
To spy on the enemy, for example.
Of course, and like for example, you see mostly flying robot flies where they stick in a corner and they look down with a camera on what's happening. That's basically a step closer to that possibility, that fiction turning into reality.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast once
My
again,
pleasure.
discussing conspiracy theories as we always do. And if you guys have any ideas of what we could talk about next, go ahead, comment in the comment section below, and we'll answer your demands and hopefully discuss something that we both feel passionate about. So I just want to thank all the viewers once again for supporting me, liking my videos, and watching my past videos. And is there anything else you would like to say before we conclude this?
Well, I just want to say thank you once again, Chris, for having me back on the podcast. Honestly, it's a big pleasure to do this, and I just want to say thank you for to the audience also for listening to us and understanding what we have to say.
No problem, man. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, guys,
It's my
once
pleasure.
again. Have a good one, guys.